He's one of the best at what he does. He's not that big. He's not like, as far as like strength of a receiver. No, he just knows how to get open, and he has probably the best hands, of anybody in the NFL. His route running is crisp. He's one of the best receivers. He's completely elite. Now,
before you go any further, I got a confession to make, dude. I didn't hit the record button.
I know.
So let's take this one more time. Two more times on the mic, or two more guys on the mic, ladies and gentlemen, with Mr. Vernon Thompson and Mr. Keith Freeman. We were just talking about the NFL season 2019 and Mr. Antonio Brown. Now that I got the record button hit, let's go.
All right, for those of you who aren't familiar with Antonio Brown, he is easily one of the elite receivers in the NFL. And if you're going to rank, the position, everybody, he's going to be in their top 5. That would still be an understatement. He's easily a top 3 receiver on everybody's list. From everything to however you want to rank it, whether it be hands, route running, just complete ability to get open, he's got to be number 1 on your list. If not overall receiver, he's going to be in your top 3. So in the news, he's been on the news in quite a lot, mainly just because of the issues that he's basically brought on himself. I think we can all agree on that. With his helmet, the things that happened with his feet, with the whole cryogenic training. And then, of course, you also have everything that he recently went through with his GM. Now, the thing about it is, of course, most people would say those things are completely self-inflicted, and that's what cost him the $30 million. But Vern, I don't think that's what. That's not our idea of exactly what happened.
God no. Come on now. Here's how you can paint this picture. Antonio Brown did not want to be a Steeler. Antonio Brown did not want to play with Ben Roethlisberger. Le'Veon Bell didn't want to play with Ben Roethlisberger. The problem is that the organization wanted to keep Ben Roethlisberger, and they wanted to continue to go ahead and give Big Ben this money that he really doesn't even deserve, because he cannot move. He's not a mobile quarterback. He's a sitting target. He's not going to outrun you. He's not going to break containment. He's not going to go ahead and use his legs to extend plays. It's just not who he is. He's an older guy, and he's an aging superstar. So because they saw the writing on the wall, they decided to take their own free agency into their own hands. This is what led to the Antonio Brown not showing up to camp, going on things like the Masked Singer, doing a lot of things that were people were looking at going, oh, he's crazy. He lost his mind. I argue that Antonio Brown played the world for fools, because he got you to buy into he's this disruptive force. He's this person. He's that person. All along, sports media is so quick to go after black athletes. I'm sorry. It's just what it is. If anybody black does something for the most minute reason, sports media is always on them.
Now, before we even talk about getting into that aspect of it, let's go ahead and go through exactly what happened as far as from a transactional standpoint. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers traded him to Oakland, and they got a 3rd round pick and a 5th round pick. Now, they got compensated for exactly what they thought they were getting rid of. They thought they were getting rid of, a cancer in the locker room, so many distractions as far as social media and everything else, but they were compensated for it. Now, Oakland, I say Oakland, but now they're going to be they're in LA, and they're going to be in Las Vegas pretty soon.
Yeah, Vegas.
So let's just call them the Vegas Raiders.
Vegas Raiders.
All right, so they're the ones who are really losing out on all this, and that's really their fault. It's not Antonio Brown's. So, of all these things, I don't understand how you don't see everything that's basically coming down the pipeline. You knew that this dude is out of every player on the planet, he is the most involved in social media, probably next to LeBron James. He is always posting on Instagram. He is the one who is doing the stuff showing up to to mini camp with a tractor trailer, or with, the Bentley and everything else. He is that dude who is trying to flex the paycheck on everybody. So you knew that this is the kind of guy that you're getting. He's also the guy who actually was posting and actually taped, went live with, after game speech of Mike Tomlin in the locker room. So, we know, this is the guy that you're getting. You know that. So, of course, you make the trade. You give away a 3rd round pick and a 5th round pick. And then, of course, you agree to pay this man I believe it was $30 million guaranteed, over a 2-year period or 3-year period. So of course, the next thing you know, all this stuff of course comes up. It is the thing with the, cryogenic chamber, basically burning his feet. He didn't have the proper footwear. And then there was this whole thing with the helmet where he wanted to wear an outdated helmet, which is a completely different subject anyway, but the helmet was uncertified, or basically the certification expired. So it was with that, and they kept coming up in the, the media. So you knew all of this stuff, and you knew who this guy was. And that's not even counting the thing where, he got into it with GM Mike Mayock and called him a cracker, said he was going to punch him in his face. And then we find out the most threatening NFL, player in the world, Vontaze Burfict, is the guy who's actually breaking this up and is being the peacemaker in that whole scenario. So to me, even if you had asked me 2 days ago, I would have said the whole thing's fake. I think the Raiders are doing this for attention, because this is a Raider-esque move. You were trying to build up buzz. That's exactly how I took it. But then when it came out that they might suspend him, still looked fake to me. Then when they said, they were taking away his guarantees, then that's when I knew that, hey, this is something that's real.
Well, to touch on what you said, to piggyback, it's all fake. It's all show parks and mirrors. A lot to unpack. First thing let's unpack is that you said that the Steelers traded him to the Raiders. That's not where Antonio Brown wanted to go.
True.
And so when the Steelers make a deal for you, you have no choice but to comply with the trade. The reason that they sent him that far out west is that they did not want to play him if it came down to a divisional playoff where the Steelers could go up against the Patriots, and then they would have to go ahead and look at Antonio Brown on the other side of the ball, a player who would know so much about the offense. It was almost at a disadvantage. They could not win because they wouldn't be able to show the Patriots any new wrinkles in the offense that would confuse them on the defensive side of the ball.
True.
So we got to go ahead and be realistic about that. The second thing we got to unpack is that the NFL contracts that are written, basically, if you don't get all of your money up front, there is no guarantee in the NFL. There's not going to be a guarantee. And even when they extend these years, they're going to go ahead and exercise options to get rid of you. So he would have not, I wouldn't say he would have never seen that 30 million, but I would say there's a good chance he would have never seen that 30 million. The deal in New England I'm a little curious about is that it was for $15 million for 1 year, but he got $9 million up front. He gets the remaining $1 million if he finishes the season, and he gets a bonus for going to the playoffs. So you got to look at Antonio Brown in this space. He's been in the league since 2010. It's 2019. He's approaching that 10-year period where wide receivers, if you're going to get anything out of them, you gotten all of them. You gotten as much as you're going to get.
Exactly. I think he's pretty much going for a ring, and not to completely get off the subject as far as, switching sports. But when this happens in the NBA, when we see the players that are nearing the end of their prime or even past their prime, giving up money to go chase, a championship ring, we don't say the same things that we're saying about Antonio Brown. Now, and that cracks me up because here we are talking about how he's giving up, he's giving up this $30 million is guaranteed. Well, where I agree with you that all of that money is not guaranteed. He was more than likely going to get most of it, but not all of it. Well, the thing about it is, it's he's already had a big contract where he's gotten the most of his money. To be a premier receiver, for when you talk about Hall of Fame, when you talk about legacy, you got to have a ring as a receiver. There aren't that many receivers that that get in and don't have a ring. We've seen it with Chris Carter. We've seen it with Terrell Owens, and we've seen it with Randy Moss. Though they are miles ahead as far as stats, or as far as where their peers are, where they were judged. When it comes to Antonio Brown, his peers are going to be the Odell Beckhams of the world. They're going to be the Julio Joneses of the world. Megatron's already retired, but that's where he's coming in on the cusp of. He was that next level. In this thing, as of right now, they don't have a ring. So if he gets a ring, he is automatically going to be put in that conversation of that upper echelon above them. And that's why I think he made this move.
Well, not only if he gets a ring, but if he gets another ring. He's already got a ring.
True.
He's already got a ring. He's got a ring in his rookie season. And I think he saw that the window was closing on his opportunity to get a ring in Pittsburgh. That was the main reason that he had actually left. And he had went and decided to, well, when he was traded away to the Raiders, the Vegas Raiders, and then now him and his antics, he forced his own free agency situation. And that is key because everybody's caught up in his antics of what he did, but they're not looking at the bigger picture. All of these guys who are big names in the NFL and you don't feel like you're getting your value or you're not getting paid what you're worth, you just have to start acting a fool and forcing management to let you go, and you're free to negotiate your own deal. This is very problematic. How much would the Raiders have benefited if they did not release Antonio Brown? I paid you to sit down. It's kind of like the Marcus Allen, Bo Jackson incident. Remember back in the 80s when the Raiders had Marcus Allen and then they had Bo Jackson, and Marcus Allen was like, I'm not going to do X, Y, Z. And they was like, okay, fine. Bo, get in. Bo Jackson becomes legendary. A lot of people don't even know that Marcus Allen rode the bench when Bo Jackson was playing in the Raiders. And then they got rid of him and he went to Kansas City. True. And he extended his career. So if you're able right now to take your own free agency into your own hands, especially in the game of football, the National Football League, that is huge, because now why do you need an agent?
Like, well, his agent's Drew Rosenhaus. I think he's going to keep Drew Rosenhaus because he is definitely the player's agent. Just to clarify, I wasn't talking about Antonio Brown just getting a ring. I was talking about him getting a ring and being the man. Right. Because he was like the number 3 or number 4 receiver on that team. He wasn't the number 1. And when you get a ring as number 1, that's the one that's special. Right.
When you go out on that, when you go out on your proverbial sword. But it speaks to another reason why you can hate the Patriots, because it's just an embarrassment of riches. I mean, you get Josh Gordon back, who's obviously a deep ball threat. You have Edelman, who runs those crossing routes. He's going to be a big time threat. Sony Michel was coming on at running back. He was looking real strong last year. He had a good season and he had a good Super Bowl. And now you add Antonio Brown into the mix. Again, like you said, he's not the biggest receiver, but he does run crisp routes. He knows how to get open. And even as an aging wide receiver, you knowing how to get open means more to a quarterback than you flat out beating a guy with foot speed and athleticism, because sometimes one day you're going to get old. Yeah. You're not going to be able to outrun everybody, but as long as you know how to get open and stay open, then pretty much you become indispensable.
All right, so let's talk about like the New England Patriots part of this. So, of course, to everybody, it looks like a huge conspiracy. It's collusion. The Patriots just keep winning. The thing about it is, to me, it's like, if you notice, not a lot of free agents actually go to New England unless they are the elite of the elite. They got, Randy Moss, for his last peak year of his prime. They got Corey Dillon for his last year of his prime. They got Darrelle Revis still in his prime, but they had to pay a pretty penny to get him, because I think he ended up getting like $30 million as a corner, right? For his, which also got a ring out of that. So, how do they keep winning when it comes to free agents, but yet when it comes to the draft or when it comes to trades, they're pretty horrible at it.
Well, if we say it comes to trades, I think New England, they have a front office that actually watches college football, that actually watches guys that fit certain skill sets. Like you talked about the Corey Dillons of the world, the Randy Mosses of the world. Tom Brady is only looking for you to get open. He's only looking for you to somebody, hand the ball off to, for you to crash the A and B and C gap and, right, left side of the line. Anything that he needs, it's just basic football. It's not anything that's overthought. It's not anything what you hear that the mainstream media likes to throw out words like exotic. If you hear, this is how you know that people pretty much invent words to talk about and phrases in the mainstream media. When you hear a game within a game, somebody's lying to you. When you hear about exotic, defenses and blitz packages, somebody's lying to you. This is pretty much all you're going to get. If you got 4 linebackers in, that's what they call the box. So if you take one of them out, guess what? You got one less guy in the box and a lot of guys in the backfield. As long as you can count to 11, football isn't complicated. They use big words to confuse people on TV to make you seem like you're so intelligent, but this is only count to 11 on both sides. That's it.
I think yes and no. I think when you talk about scheming, when you talk about game planning, I think most of your football, as far as from being an intelligent sport, is actually done from Monday through Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Agreed.
It's not on Sunday, or it's not on that Thursday night, and it's not on Monday night. So, it is during the game, it is certain situations, it is basically just 11 versus 11 and then field position. That's all you're really doing.
That's all it can be.
Yeah.
That's all it can be.
But, like I said, what we're talking about, the Patriots, the same thing is basically as far as being a GM. The only part of your job is before the season starts, from the draft and then free agency. So when that happens, of course, if you draft well, of course, it's definitely going to show out. Anytime you have a new coach in, that's one of the main things you want to draft well. And then, of course, once the draft is over, you have a free agency period. And then, of course, before the draft, you also have a free agency period when you have restricted free agency. My thing is, we've seen a few different trades go down, but the AB trade is the most Raider-esque thing that there is. It's how do you lose 2 draft picks on a guy that you knew everything that came with him? So how do you lose 2 draft picks on a guy, and then of course you cut him, and then you've already traded away Amari Cooper. You've also traded away Khalil Mack. Who is your stud on your team? Who is it?
I think that's something that LA is going to have to figure out. I mean, they gave Gruden this massive amount of money to figure that out, and then he didn't want Khalil Mack to get his money, so then he traded him to Chicago, and then he made Chicago the number 1 defense in the league with Khalil Mack and some additional pieces that they added on. Then he got rid of Amari Cooper, and you can clearly see at the middle of the season, Dallas actually got better. Dallas made a playoff run when Amari Cooper came into the picture. So it's not who's their stud. It's Gruden. You better get me a stud. Now, Antonio Brown, and to me, here's the thing. I'll go ahead and I'll be on record in saying this. The Patriots did nothing wrong. Patriots did nothing wrong. Patriots did nothing wrong in this instance. If I have a player that's going to call me of Antonio Brown's caliber and of his pedigree, and he calls me and says he needs a job, you know what? I'm going to take that phone call. I'm going to listen to him. Now, the way it went down was ridiculous because he was officially released at 4:05. He had a deal, not rumored, not sitting here around a rumor mill, not proposed. He had a deal inked and signed at 4:30. It didn't hit the waiver wire until 4:50 and became breaking news at 4:57. So, yeah, collusion, yeah, something had to be in the mix there. But people always try and point at this as that he's a knucklehead, he's this, he's that. You don't personally know Antonio Brown. None of us do. We only know what the commercial corporate media has painted Antonio Brown up to be. So if corporate media wants to go ahead and vilify this man and say that he's this and he's that, and that is your talking point with you not really knowing who Antonio Brown is, then pretty much you're just a parrot repeating something somebody's told you. He basically made a business decision. That's like any of us here, if we had our jobs and our careers and someone else said, hey, I can pay you X amount of money if you come over here, I'm going to go look for better money, more guaranteed money.
True. So, quick clarification when we talked about, as far as him being released at 4:01 and then him signing at 4:30, I can tell you right now, as soon as they announced that he is released, Drew Rosenhaus's phone is blowing up. He's not calling anybody. They are calling him. And he got calls from, there's 32 teams in the NFL. We know 2 of them weren't calling him. But I can guarantee at least the half of the rest, at least 15, GMs called him and asked him, what the asking price was. And when you're at that, when you're at Antonio Brown's stage of his career, he wants another ring. He wants the ring as being the man, but he also wants that guaranteed money. signing a short-term deal is nothing to him.
Right.
Yeah, like we even seen this from Darrelle Revis, and Darrelle Revis is the king of the short-term deal, the short-term guaranteed money deal. He completely. I think he ended up making $90 million of his career.
Yeah, he made $90 million, but see, he recognized something that a lot of athletes don't recognize is that you have to get all of your money up front. It's not about the big number that they tell you can get over so many years. We're going to give you $100 and something million. But if you only got $10 million guaranteed up front signing, then pretty much that's going to be your signing bonus. And so Antonio, like I said, Antonio Brown did good in the fact that he's going to get half of what the Raiders were going to pay him for 3. He got it in 1 with the incentive. If they go to the playoffs, he's still on the roster. He gets that bonus. And if he makes the Pro Bowl, he gets that bonus again. So on the real issue, what did you lose if you was Antonio Brown by making this move? Absolutely nothing.
Exactly. So
can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
So I'm sorry, I'm sitting here listening to this whole conversation. Out of my own morbid curiosity, where did Antonio Brown want to play?
New England.
He wanted to go to New England.
I think he either wanted to go to New England or an actual contender, which is New England.
So New England was all part of his master plan.
Yeah. That's why he's the smartest guy in the room. He let everybody take shots at him. Everybody's sitting here like, oh, look at the Raiders. They bit off more than they can chew with Antonio Brown. Now he's just sitting back and laughing because you have to say he took over the news cycle of the summer, which is very hard to do
for 3 weeks at least.
For 3 weeks in a row, because you got to look at what he was up against. Antonio Brown was up against LeBron James being healthy, coming back to the Raiders. Anthony Davis now playing with LeBron James. Boogie Cousins going to the LA Lakers. Also, Boogie getting hurt. They have Antetokounmpo. They have his brother now at the Raiders. He was so big, nobody's talking about the Raiders.
Well, not only that, the other big story that he still managed to drown out was Andrew Luck's retirement.
Yeah.
That was huge. That took over the news cycle. Like people who didn't even know about football were commenting on it. And then within the blink of an eye, we are automatically talking about Antonio Brown.
You're talking about Antonio Brown. And then not only that, but he drowned out the 15-year-old Coco, who's playing in the U.S. Open, who is the heir apparent to the Williams sisters' crown. He took over her press. Nobody was talking about her. A lot of people don't even know that she was even playing because that's all you could talk about was Antonio Brown. Kawhi Leonard left Toronto to go play for the Clippers. Nobody cares because Antonio Brown is walking around calling people crackers. He's gonna hit them. You see how ridiculous and over the top he was, and what he did was from that time frame, he has played the American sports media, the corporate sports media for fools. The ESPNs, the Fox Sports Ones, all these different outlets who continue to keep talking about this dude. He played him for fools.
So at what point did you think or did you know something's fishy here? It's got to be fake. I'll tell you mine first, and then I want to hear yours. For me, it was the Nike-esque video that he put out. As soon as that came out, I'm like, all right, that's when I know something is going on. This is not about frozen feet. This is not about a helmet. This is something else is going on. When you have a taped conversation with your coach, and I'm like, at this point, I'm like, if Gruden is in on this, then we know it's like, nothing but Raiders pub. If he's not in on this, then something is definitely fishy going on because nobody puts out, I'm all in, I'm all in coach hype video, if nothing fishy is going on. Like nobody does that. So that was where I knew right there. And by the way, all that right there was basically like, that happened on like a Friday, and then he was cut. I mean, he was released on like Sunday. So that was when I knew something was up. So when did you know that something was fishy about the whole ordeal?
Oh, I knew something was fishy about the whole ordeal. I basically knew when he was complaining about the helmets. And what a lot of people who don't know about football and everything like that, everybody helmets is the same.
Yeah, they have a choice of like 30.
You got a choice of 30. Everybody's helmet is the same. So you sitting here crying about the helmet, but they don't say which modifications that you wanted to do to the helmet. Because I know some of them have the air helmets that pump up from the top to secure the head, so it doesn't it limits the trauma and everything like that on the brain. But for different clubs to go into it, and you have this in front of you, you say, okay, well, if he's crying about the helmet, then what part of the helmet does he want to change? And he never addressed it. And then he was calling himself Mr. Big Chest. And then he had the blonde goatee. And he just did so many weird things. I was just like, something's up, because nobody's going to, if you really want to play football, you really didn't care. I remember guys on a high school level taping shoes together.
Shoes together.
Yeah, taping your shoes together if you fell. And then somehow some guys used to use the school issued equipment, the Rydell. I'm only speaking from the 90s now. Hold on for a second.
Okay, because that was a little over my league.
That was a little over your league now. When guys would have the Rydell school issue equipment, was horrible, because you had to match the thigh pads and the knee pads and the pants up, because you didn't want to have kicker pads. Because it was school issued, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So if it was school issued equipment and Antonio Brown was complaining about that, that's one thing. But when you're on that level of pro equipment, you've got the best of the best, and he's complaining, he doesn't want to play. And it's not that he doesn't want to play, he don't want to play for you. And we're going to go ahead and wrap up this segment right now. We're going to go ahead and switch some lanes, throw it back to my man Cleve.
You are exactly 25 minutes into this, sir. We're going to take a quick break. Let me see. Crap, I was going to hit the music. Try it again. We're going to take a quick break. We'll catch you guys in about another 5 minutes.
Later.